everybody. Welcome to the PowerCast live every Tuesday with Eric Vasquez, the PowerCast. We have a very special guest, somebody we're very excited to have on the show today. His name is Nick Kevadas.
Yes, sir.
And he is somebody that you get to know on a personal level. You may know him already if you're watching live over here with us. And most importantly, if you haven't watched our show before and you're new to the broadcast, please go and check us out on YouTube, Team Powerhouse Real Estate. Hit subscribe. You can catch us every week. It'll come to your phones, live, your iPads, etc. And then you can also watch us in the replay every Saturday. In addition to that, you have us on Apple Podcast. You have us on Spotify. You have us on Twitch. You have us on Facebook, Instagram. You name it, we're there for you. And we're excited to be a part of your lives. Talking about real estate, talking about local businesses, and today we have a very special guest again, Nick Kevadas. Great guy, comes from an amazing family, a hardworking family from day one, an amazing upbringing. I know Nick since he's about 12 years old, and now he's 25.
Believe it or not.
And let me just tell you what he's been
Crazy.
doing in his
know.
what he's been doing in his life. Honestly, in the last 10 to 15 years is unbelievable. Going to school, not only getting educated, but grounds, roots, hardworking. All right, Nick, so welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little about yourself. Where are you from?
Cheshire, Connecticut, as you are, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
He's
Eric
not
is,
from Cheshire.
I'm not
Well,
from.
you're not from
Yeah.
Cheshire,
He
but
lives in Cheshire.
That is true.
so
Not-
do you.
Yes.
And
Yes,
Eric.
but I don't claim to be from Cheshire.
I
I'm
didn't-
from New York.
Well, from Cheshire today, born and raised Westbrook, Connecticut. I'm a shoreline guy growing up. Then my parents went to Woodbridge, and then to Cheshire. That's my little quick.
My trail's farther, longer than that.
Eric's is like from the hood.
Yeah.
Queens.
Queens, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of stops in between.
There's a lot of stops in between, especially.
North Carolina, some Asian Pacific countries. Yeah, it's wild.
We'll have to talk about Eric. One day I'm gonna interview Eric on the show. Will be actually a very exciting show to watch. All right.
Well,
Nick,
we'll have two versions:
we'll have to-
a G-rated and an R-rated.
Hey now.
All right, Nick Kevadas. So you're from Cheshire, Connecticut. Now, how did you get involved in landscaping?
Landscaping.
Because hold on, let's just talk about this.
Yeah.
The company. Let's just start. Hold on, from the beginning. So Nick Kevadas owns a company called Studioscapes. He's a landscape architect and designer of property that's going to blow your mind away. So let's say you own a home, and you want to have a property that's going to look like better than your neighbors, because everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses. You want to better than your neighbors. You want to call a guy like Nick, and we're going to go into details and why. So you started in landscaping a little bit. How did it go?
Absolutely, yeah. So currently I'm a landscape designer, as Dave mentioned. I studied landscape architecture in school.
Where'd you go to school?
UConn, believe it or not.
UConn.
Exactly.
All right.
So
Dave can spell Yukon.
before we got there, we started back. I was 15, 16 years old and worked at a farm. Eventually, I transitioned over to mowing lawns. Started out with my grandparents' accounts, and that spiraled into an interest in working outdoors. So through Cheshire High School, I actually did an internship for a day type of thing, a job shadow at a local firm, and said, yeah, I could see myself doing this. And from there, I got a job at the local garden center, and that's
You
where
want to give a shout out to the name of that place?
Cheshire Nursery Garden Center and Florist.
Very nice.
Is that the one near the corner of South Brooksvale? Over
It
there?
is.
You
Yeah.
bet, sir.
Yeah.
Yep, that's where I grew up, basically. So from there, that's kind of where it spiraled out of control and is what it is now.
It's pretty amazing. You start from here, not even knowing where you're going to end up and owning your own business in this field. How many people have worked in a garden center or worked in a store before, and then later on they become an owner or they develop a whole nother level of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, as a youth working in that and then staying in that field
Yeah.
is not common.
Completely.
I mean, you don't work in a pizzeria, and then open a pizzeria, by your 25th birthday, so.
That's a very good point. That's just to understand what Nick is all about. I want to start with his family and his upbringing and how he developed into who he is, because there's a level of, how should I say this, education and hard work that you were instilled in. I know your parents very well, and I can say that very comfortably that they instilled the work ethic in your life that you have today. Is that fair and reasonable?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Yeah, they always push us to do our best, obviously, and follow what we were passionate about. I happen to be passionate about plants somehow, and that's where Cheshire Nursery came into hand. My parents pushed me in that direction and said, you know, if you're going to do this, you might as well get educated before you even go to college. So if this is what you want to try and do, then you might as well start learning now.
So you started this, what, you say about 10 years ago?
Yeah, when I was 16, about 10 years ago.
Okay. And then let me ask you a question. When did you start doing it on like computer stuff?
Computer stuff. I started learning the whole software version of it during college. The portion that I'm doing now, I would say, has only been about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
How big an advancement from what the computer stuff was back then versus what it is now?
So
It's a great question.
back then, the software was there, but it wasn't as affordable or as readily advertised to the common consumer that it is now.
Right.
You know, when I was working at a garden center, it was, you have a customer come in, you want to come, you need help with your landscape.
Right. I want to get some hydrangea.
Exactly.
Arborvitaes or
So I take out my notepad and draw a few circles and say, this is what you want, and that's the plant right there. And sometimes that worked, and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I would have to drag the plants out into the walkway, interrupt everybody else to lay out a landscape there. And that's kind of where I figured out that there was something going on with that and showing people that this is what it could look like.
Did you develop the software? I'm just going to the software question. It's a great question, by the way, Eric. Did you develop the software? Did you buy into software? How does that even kind of?
I did not develop the software, no.
You probably took the software you had, and I'm guessing you added some to it or something.
The software that I used.
You have to
and still
disclose that
use-
necessarily if you don't want to, by the way.
Secrets of the trade.
Right.
There's many different softwares out there. And just because you have some of the software, I get that asked all the time, is what software do you use? You can go buy the software. There's $10 a month versions, there's
Right.
$1,000 a year, there's $7,000 a year, depending on what you want to get into.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Do you need a college degree, or did you get, first of all, did you get a college degree specifically for this? And
Sure.
would you say that this is something that you would recommend heavily to have a college degree in this category to know how to do what you're doing?
Sure. So I did get a college degree, as you said, UConn,
What was the major final in?
landscape architecture. I have a bachelor's in science of landscape architecture from UConn.
Very cool.
So from there, we learned how to design, how to lay out, not necessarily plant oriented. The plant aspect, to the second part of your question, was from Cheshire Nursery. It was me handling the plants every single day and going each pot to pot and watering each pot and reading the note card saying, this thrives in sun and needs a lot of water. After a while, you start to memorize those things and
Right.
say, hey, that might look nice next to this one. And that's where that connection came
That's
from.
really actually a lot of common sense involved too. It's the passion. I know Eric's going to talk about this right now. He's got
No. I was just going to preface. So my question regarding software,
Sure.
and we kind of jumped ahead because
Yes,
we
definitely
jumped
jumped ahead.
ahead on the fact that you do this design on a computer.
Yeah.
So, but when you started talking about it, that question popped into my head.
Sure.
The passion, when you get involved in something, in any job you have in life, when your heart's involved, your mind becomes involved, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people, heart first, mind second, pocket third.
Right.
Because you don't know what the costs of things are involved until if you're emotionally in there, then you become mentally in there, and then your pocket becomes financially in there, right?
Yeah.
So you became involved in something you became passionate about emotionally. And by doing that, you're reading these different plants and learning about plants, and like you said, sunlight, and again, I know nothing about plants. As a matter of fact, I have the worst green thumb that you could find. I've destroyed things because of not knowing, but
That's okay.
that's why you hire the right people And that's why, again, everybody out there, if you're looking to get involved in your property, which is the most important asset that you own, right? Have somebody like Nick over here specifically that is going to help you and make your property look beautiful, right, Eric? I mean, your landscape, when we walk into a house, we go to a property, the first thing you see is from the outside, right? Looking at the outside of the property, they go to the backyard, they see, and landscaping makes a huge difference on the emotional impact it makes on the buyers before they even walk in the house, right? I mean, colors, patterns, design, and this is everything to you as a homeowner looking to sell one day, or if you bought a house today, you want your home to look and feel on the outside as it does on the inside.
Well, just to use the phrase curb appeal.
Yes.
I mean, just if you're
Absolutely.
selling a house, let's say your house is not, gorgeous with the landscape and stuff.
Yes.
But you're selling it and you want to, you want to catch that curb appeal. That's what you do.
It's
That's
funny.
what you do.
We walk to houses, and sometimes people use different color mulches. Now, I'm going to ask you a question on the cuff, by the way. Like, I'll see red mulch or brown mulch versus black mulch. In my emotional thought process, when I see mulch, if you're going to go with mulch, I go and choose black first. I used to think red was the hot one. I realized that later on that to me, red was not the hot one. The black was what makes the house pop, and maybe the different colors of the house maybe depend on what kind of mulch you use. Again, I'm jumping to a side note.
That's okay.
So mulching is something you're involved in, or maybe even stone, because stone is something that I learned after having mulched for many, many years, that you buy stone one time and it lasts forever. And it's a more expensive initial investment, but then later on, you only need it one time, where every year you have to remulch, or every 2 years.
Not necessarily always the best option for a fresh landscape, though.
Okay, good to know. Tell me
So-
more about that.
Well, when you have a landscape that's brand new and fresh, you have to go and water it every day.
Yes.
Rocks retain a lot more heat.
Ooh.
You can burn out your plants a lot faster
Oh, wow.
by having rock mulch, in my experience at least.
Rock as instead of mulch to have rock there.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
depending on what kind of plants you may use then. It's another good point, actually.
Absolutely. So
I'm learning more and more as this gets along. It's going to be kind of crazy as I look more dumb on this camera over here. All right.
it's okay. It's okay. I always recommend starting out with a bark mulch of some sort.
Okay.
Hemlock, cedar, pine, whatever you have.
Yeah.
It helps retain the water. It helps keep the heat off of the plants a little bit.
Okay.
And it keeps the bed cooler. There's that few inches of insulation where it doesn't necessarily retain that heat. The
Interesting.
rocks will heat up and hold that heat,
Huh.
so they can burn out and dry out faster.
So depending on what kind of plants you use, it's important to know what kind of mulch to use.
Absolutely.
Whether it be rock, maybe more of a tree type bedding versus plant type bedding
Sure.
would be different. Okay, very
Yeah.
very interesting stuff over here. All right, so
Totally off topic.
it's actually
That's okay.
part of the topic, but kind of went sideways on when I was going to asking questions, and I love that we did this.
Yeah.
How do we know what kind of plants to use when it comes to like getting your house ready for, or not getting it ready, but just picking things out? Like, how do you know what kind of
Sure.
plants to use?
Were you gonna go?
No.
Okay.
I can't answer that question. You're the expert.
Kidding.
My question would have
Kidding.
been, what's the difference between an annual and a perennial?
That's okay. Picking out the right plant palette. Obviously, your eye catches certain things. Everybody's different. Is it red? Is it blue? Do you like the variegation in the leaves? Do you like evergreen? Do you like flowers?
Yeah,
That's something that I would ask you as the homeowner.
right.
And then I take your property into consideration and say, well, your house faces, the front of your house faces north. The least amount of sun exposure possible.
You know, it's funny you say that, Eric. I'm looking at you as he's saying this, and he's talking about this, and I can see you thinking about that. I'm like, never thought about that.
No?
North, south, east, or west? No,
That
You've
is
never thought about it?
no. Never thought to myself, like, what direction is my house facing based on the sun rising and setting as to what kind of plants I'm going to put in my house?
I used to ask clients, how much sunlight do you get? And they would say, oh, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 6 hours, or 3 and 5 hours. It's a window, sure. The better question I learned to ask is, do you mind if I look up your address on Google Maps? This way I
Right.
can see not only which way is your home facing, but are there trees in front of that still provide shade?
Right.
your house could be facing south, which gets the most amount of sun exposure, but all of a sudden you put a few shade trees in front of it and your house is in shade again.
Yeah, I mean, again, things I never would have thought about in the process of picking out plants and the
Sure.
whole landscape designing part. That's just, again, simple, stupid, probably. Question first, number one.
That's a discussion for another time, real estate related,
Yes.
because I've had clients who, for religious reasons, have to be facing a particular direction.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Or the southern part of the house sometimes does have southern exposure. It actually damages or discolors the wood floors because of the light coming through the windows and the screen and all of that other stuff.
Very good point.
So it's something, I don't know which direction my house faces, but I don't care about the foliage and stuff like that.
Or you have a front porch and you want to see the sunrise or sunset. That could be something important too.
Right.
Say you want to drink your coffee every morning to the sunrise.
Right.
That's something important too.
All right, let me ask you a question. What is remote design?
Sure. So remote design is relatively newer to the general public in my experience. Remote design was always something there where you go to a big firm and you can say, hey, I know you're out of Connecticut, but we have a property in New York or New Jersey, and we'd like you to design our property.
Speaking of that, so if you go on Nick's Studioscapes Instagram page, and by the way, do you have a Facebook page?
Yes, also Studioscapes Design, both of them.
Okay,
It's
so
the
if you're on
handle.
Instagram or Facebook, go to Studioscapes Design
Yep.
right now. Make sure to click on it.
Well, right now,
Friend
because
it,
then they're leaving
like
the
it.
podcast.
What's that?
Not now, because they're leaving
Don't
the
leave the
podcast.
podcast. Right, afterwards. Okay, you're right. Good point. So
Write it
Studioscapes
down.
Design. Write this down. Studioscapes Design. Go to Facebook. Go to
Yep.
Instagram. Like the page. Follow the page.
Thank you.
Just so
Yep.
you can make sure you can find them. Nick, by the way, and Jonathan loves when I do this last minute. What is your cell phone number that they would need to have to get in touch with you? Can you give that out loud? Because
Yeah,
Jonathan's
sure.
going to put it on the screen for us.
203
203
589
589
8935.
8935. Now listen, ladies.
Call or
he-
text.
He has somebody already, so
Sorry, I'm taken.
don't go there. Allie is a sweetheart. She's a great girl, but she will claw somebody's eyes out if you try.
Hey, easy, easy.
I'm just no. Anyway, but Nick is an amazing guy. You definitely want to get his number, and I'm sure that Jonathan's putting on the screen for us. Did you get that number, Jonathan? Beautiful. So Jonathan's got your number on the screen for people to get in contact
Thank you,
with
sir.
you. If you are living in Connecticut or outside the state, by the way, let's talk about that. You work all over the country, literally, with helping people getting their.
Yeah, he said he got a call from Alaska.
Somehow an Instagram
some-
promotion reached Alaska and they were interested in some help. Yes.
So they have grass out there.
They
didn't
have
know that.
they have something out
I've
there.
been to Alaska. A lot of grass.
But you know what? You do a lot of work in Jersey.
New Jersey, Long Island, New York, some in Massachusetts. We're starting to dive a little bit farther down south. I've had one or two from the Carolinas.
So my point is, you got a guy who is not only extremely or wicked knowledgeable in this category, but he can help you no matter where you are in developing your property to make it look and seem as you've always wanted. Maybe they have a pool, they want a certain kind of landscape around the
Sure.
pool.
Yeah.
The front of the house, the back of the house. Eric.
No, I was going to say, I imagine there's a knowledge base there where certain, like you said, you're venturing down south, so I'm sure that there are certain plants and or flowers that are more either indigenous or more popular in, like, say, Georgia than would be in Connecticut.
That's a good
So
point.
we're familiar with those,
Absolutely.
like magnolia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Very good, Eric. I like that.
There's something known as
I don't
the,
know where that came from.
there's something known as the hardiness zones, and different areas have different zones. A lot of them overlap, and if you look up a certain plant, for example, it'll still give you a range.
Yep.
So it'll say, we're still between 5 and 7, or you could do anything from a zone 2 to a zone 7.
I just want to interrupt for 1 second. Jonathan's watching you live on my Facebook page, hopefully, looking to see if you have any questions there to make sure we can get them over to Nick. And also on Instagram, if we have any questions for Nick, please do not hesitate to ask us. You have him live, captivated for another, I don't know, maybe 10 more minutes before he tells us he has to leave. Any questions coming out there at all?
I didn't want to interrupt somebody. Nick Emmerling asked, "My new hobby is ponds. What should I know? Pros and cons before I dig the Grand Canyon in my yard."
First of all, Nick Emmerling, thank you so much for being an amazing guest every week watching our show. Love you, man.
Believe it or not, there are certain designers that only design koi ponds or ponds in general. I don't specialize in it. I'd be more than happy to dive into some research about it and see what goes well around it.
Are there any pros and cons to a pond
I can tell you
that
some
you
pros.
can think of?
I can tell you some pros and cons from having a pond because I have one.
That's right, you do, yeah.
So the first thing is I bought a house, Nick, with a pond. Nick Emmerling, Nick Kavadas. Great to meet you guys. All right, so two Nicks, great name. The koi pond is a great thing to have for the kids. It's a lot of fun. I'm gonna tell you, it's very expensive to put a koi pond.
I was just gonna say,
It's extremely expensive not just to build it, but if you have one, to maintain it every year the right way, opening and closing it, making sure you have a heater, a bubbler. It's feeding the fish. It's, again, really cool. But you're
making
looking
sure
at,
there's a net so that the hawks don't come and
and
snatch
these
your koi
birds
fish.
will still, I've had
Yep.
my fish stolen. I've had fish that I raised from the beginning, and they get to be from, there's 3 inches to about a foot or longer, eaten, stolen, or frozen because you don't know how to, your heater breaks. I'm not saying that you should do it or not do it, but I'll tell you it's a very expensive investment. Take your money, invest it into your property, make it look pretty. I would say it to you before actually going with a koi pond. That's my recommendation.
Sure.
Don't look at me, I don't have a koi pond.
All right,
I don't
so
either.
let me get to another question with you, my friend. And Nick, or anybody else, if you have questions, please reach out to us again. More
Absolutely.
questions. We love questions. Nick is great to educate us all. What are design installation services? Tell us about the 3D services.
So the design and installation services locally, I'm based out of Cheshire, Southington area.
Yes.
So anywhere around that, generally, I'd be more than happy to do not only a design, but install the product as well. That's a common question I get is, do you just make the pretty picture? And if you go on my social media accounts, a lot of them happen to be from other states. I not only work with homeowners, but I work with landscapers, landscape contractors as well. So those groups of people happen to be in other areas. If you are listening from New Jersey, New York, or wherever,
We have a lot of New
Long
Yorkers, by the
Island.
way. A lot of New Yorkers.
a lot
watch
of
the
New
show.
Yorkers,
Yeah.
I may have somebody that can help you do the installation.
In 3D services, what are 3D services?
3D services are becoming a really hot commodity in the design world. I can take your house and make it look like what it would look like with a new picture. Bringing in, through photo rendering process, I can visually make it look like it would with
So the house itself and then also landscaping.
So yeah, the 3D part of it is a totally different software where I can construct your home in 3D,
Yeah.
like a video game almost.
That's pretty cool.
Build you a pool, build you a pergola, an outdoor kitchen, a patio, a fire pit.
Nick, are you listening, buddy? This guy's got a lot of ideas over here for you. And I know
A koi
Tammy.
pond.
A lot more money
and-
than a koi
and
pond.
Tammy would definitely enjoy some of these things you're talking about over here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Big shout out to Tammy. Sorry.
So, if you are looking to spend this larger portion of money, the 3D element to it is a small investment that you could make in your property to help minimize those mistakes that you could make. You could be halfway through building your pool, say,
Yep.
your $50,000 pool.
50,000 would be cheap for an in-ground pool, but go ahead.
For
yeah.
now, yes.
Yeah.
But say it's that, a small fraction of that could help take away any mistakes that you could make. You could see it in person and fly through it with the 3D. It's not something I yet offer, something I'm working on, and I'd be happy to come talk about it again next time.
We're definitely gonna have Nick back on the show. We have a few more questions over here before we run out of time.
Sure.
But all right, The process of getting the work done, is there a set price or an hourly price?
So that's another common question that I get, Dave. There is not necessarily an hourly rate. Everybody does it differently depending on who you talk to.
I couldn't imagine an hourly. It wouldn't make sense to me. I mean, realistically. Because
The big firms, they will do an hourly rate based off, you could get billed out hourly. It's all dependent on the person and the client. But you being a homeowner, and Eric, you too, I come to you and you say, I want to redo the front of my house. It could take me 2 to 3 hours to come up with even the idea of what I want to portray to you in that,
right,
and what could be the correct landscape. It could be 10 minutes. It's not always
right,
that.
right.
It could be 3 hours. It could be 5 hours. It could be days. Is it fair for me, say you both have ranch homes, is it fair for me to bill you X amount of dollars and then you 10 times that because
Right.
I couldn't think of what I wanted to put in front of your house?
Right, right.
No. So depending on what you have, how large your house is, I always say that to my clients. I'm not going to price out a colonial the same way I'm going to price out a cape.
Right.
Your beds are 10 feet wide on a cape or 10 feet long and maybe 30 feet on a colonial. There's 3 times the material there. Not necessarily 3 times the cost, but
There's a interesting, no, what you were just talking about caused me to think of something. So when you're, do you go to the house, do you take a picture of the front of the house and then
yeah,
use
absolutely.
that to kind of plop electronically or digitally
Yeah.
the images in there? Okay, so then I would imagine what you take into account is, let's say a ranch is low to the ground, right?
Correct.
So like a raised ranch is gonna be raised up. So part of the house is gonna be like 5 to 7 feet off the ground. So you're gonna want stuff that's gonna be 5 to 7 feet that kind of meets that underlaying and stuff like that, right?
Correct. So that's a great point you bring up.
Yeah.
Very good point. Eric, you are, not just a pretty face. All right, keep going.
Never was a pretty face.
That's another very common question that I get to is low maintenance, and I don't want it to. A lot of the issue right now is things that were planted in front of people's houses were from the 80s ish,
Yes,
90s.
yes.
You have your yews, you have your rhododendrons, you name them.
Green versus color. It's the
Above the windows, you can't see, and anything related to the name is disheartening.
same. Yes.
What they have now are different cultivars and different varieties of plant that it could be the same type of plant, but it's dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
So I could give you one type for your raised ranch that maybe gets 6 feet tall to fill that gap of foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have a ranch, say, and you only want something that's 4 feet that goes right below your windowsill that's easily maintained.
Makes a lot of sense.
Like a Japanese maple. I
Right.
love the Japanese
Love
maples.
the Japanese maple. Such a
Love
pretty-
Japanese
so
maple.
pretty.
Every time I show a house with Japanese maple, I go, "That's a Japanese maple." Oh, what's that one? I don't know, but that's a Japanese maple.
A lot of money for those.
That looks amazing.
Yeah.
Do you do residential and commercial?
I do, mostly residential, but again, with some of my,
I could definitely see like commercial companies or buildings when you pull up to it. Especially a building that's a little classy, because you come up to a commercial building. Do you want to look like a warehouse? Do you want to look inviting?
Right,
And the
absolutely.
landscaping that a building will have definitely is more inviting. That shows that there's a level of care, that they care about you, what you think about the building, how the place looks.
absolutely.
Depends on where the building is, though.
Right.
You know,
I mean,
True.
Manhattan, you don't have that.
No.
No grass.
Right.
But here locally where we are, there's decent sized beds where you can get away with doing some cool stuff or something different that's not necessarily what you normally see.
All right. So your client. I'm gonna get a couple more questions. What is your client base like? Is your client base more of
All
a
over the place.
yeah?
Small scale first time home buyers, the DIYers who just don't know what they're looking for but want something to then go dig the holes and make the beds themselves. Absolutely. Someone who's looking for a larger multi-tiered landscape that has a landscaper come do it, sure.
Yep.
Or the landscapers themselves come to me as well.
I can see definitely landscapers. If you're a landscaper out there, it's very important to have someone like Nick in your pocket because truth of the matter is, you may do the beautiful work, but you need to have the idea to make your clients happy. And this is the guy you want to be in contact with as a landscaper to make sure that he makes you look good by you presenting to the client what should look in front of their houses. I mean, most landscapers, and again, I could be wrong in saying this, they come in, they make your grass look beautiful, they put the lines in the grass, that's what you want. You want it to look pretty and clean. But when it comes to color, as a landscaper, if you can present ideas or present Nick to your clients to help
Sure.
make the house, you're just going to become that much more important to your clients, etc.
A lot of the landscapers that I work with, to back off of your point, they have some experience with the plants and they know the nurseries and you know
Sure.
what looks good.
They should. I mean,
And they know how to maintain it, which is fantastic. Some of them just don't even have the time to do the design work,
that's probably the bigger
which is
picture.
where I can come
yeah.
in.
I
A-
think
a
that's-
lot of the guys are very knowledgeable and could easily lay something out. It's a matter of
they're busy doing cutting the grass and taking care of their clients.
Right.
It's probably, it's
24/7.
probably an old school thing, you know? Because, I mean, before computers, how did you do it? You did it by eye.
Right.
You know, you either did a sketch or a drawing, or
you do a quick sketch, whereas this is a photo representation of what your home could be.
We have a lot of
It's-
clients
yeah.
on the shoreline between, I'm going to say to you, from Essex all the way to Bridgeport, all the way down the shoreline, okay?
Sure.
And when you're on the shoreline, you're all about, kind of keeping up with the Joneses, who's got a prettier property. And if you're out there on the shoreline and you, again, anywhere in the state of Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, wherever you're located, and you want to have a real opportunity to kind of change the way it doesn't have to be a big project. It can be a small project as well, right?
Be at the side of your garage.
So, I mean, there's different, you have small projects, you have large projects. It
Yeah.
could be coming into your driveway and making a whole landscaping look different. It can be something where, like you said, the side of your garage, could be the front of your home, the backyard, around a pool.
Sure.
It could
Yeah.
be around a koi pond area. It could be even separating people's landscape from the neighbors,
I was gonna say, blocking out the neighbors is a big one.
right?
How do we put in some sort of natural looking hedge, multi-purpose hedge where it's not just a row of arborvitae, but it provides me with some
Color.
trees, some flowers, multi-seasonal interest in the spring, summer, fall, and winter, because the plants change.
Right. And the other thing is, and I am one of those people, and maybe I'm wrong for saying this out loud, so please forgive me. I want to buy it one time. I want it to do its thing every year. I don't want to have to buy something every year to throw money. I consider burning money, throwing money. I don't understand people. They love to buy these plants. They plant them for every year, and then have to redo it again every year. Like, that
So,
to me is crazy.
Around
personally.
here, that would be annuals that you're referring to. Those are the smaller, bright flowers that you
Yeah.
put in a pot, and
They're super cute and they're very friendly and the yada
Right.
yada. But then you got to buy them again every year, as opposed to knowing someone like yourself. And I hope I'm not out of line for saying this because you probably like to do that too. I'm sure. I'm not sure. But you get someone like yourself who knows those plants, and there's probably 100 different kinds of colored plants that you plant one time, and they just come back and look beautiful.
so believe it or not, the majority of times that people use annuals around here are for flower pots, hanging baskets, or small accents.
Yes.
Not necessarily for their primary landscape. The alternative to that, a smaller plant, we'll use that term, would be a perennial. Those are the ones that come back every year.
Love perennials.
You spend, say, $15 compared to $5, and it comes back every year.
Reinvest.
You just answered my question
What's that?
about annuals and perennials.
I was gonna get to
There
it.
you
So
go.
the annual comes back every year.
No,
Annual.
perennial does.
No.
Annual is the not come back every year. I annually have to pay more money for it. That's a good way to remember it. As opposed to perennial, I buy it once and perennials, it
It
stays.
dies back in the winter, and then it comes back once per year.
All about the perennials. Nick, we want to thank you so much
Absolutely.
for being on
Thank
the
you.
show today. You were awesome. There's so many more questions, so many things to talk about. If you are out there and looking for a landscape designer, somebody who's going to help make your property look amazing, you're buying a house now, you've got a great realtor you're working with, maybe somebody in our team, like Eric or myself or anybody of our members of our team, by the way. We have to bring them on the show. More agent. So, but if you have an agent out there you're working with, whoever it is, and you're buying a house, think about the next investment of how to make your house pretty. All right, everybody, we're going to the next part of our show that everybody loves, is who is going to win a lucky tumbler to be sent to them. And the winner is, Jonathan, please.
Drum roll.
Drum roll. The winner is Janet Thiessen 34.
Janet the Eisen 34. I think
TT.
that's a V.
All right.
From TikTok.
Anyway, TikTok winner, congratulations. Again, guys,
TikTok,
go
there we
to
go.
our Instagram, our TikTok, our Facebook. Please like, subscribe. Go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. By doing so, you go onto our spinning wheel and have a chance to win every week. And if you haven't been chosen for winning a tumbler and you want one, please put a shout out on Facebook. Let us know how important it is to you, and maybe we can make that happen. Thank you so much every week for joining us. Nick, you were awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Eric,
Yeah.
awesome
Eric, thank
show. Thank you all so much for joining us every Tuesday. Next week, you're going to have a very cool episode to watch. Eric and I talk a little about what's going to happen with real estate, movies, videos, and
Well,
shows.
it's what's it called? Reaction. It's a reaction video. So we've got some videos that we're going to realtor clips from movies or TV shows, and
We're going to react to them
watch
and
them in reaction.
have a little feedback for you as to what we think about them as well.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for joining us every week. It is Tuesday, the PowerCast, Team Powerhouse. Thank you all so much.
Wait. Happy Mother's Day to those of you out there.
Good call.
This
Absolutely.
Sunday is Mother's Day.
Mom,
happy
happy
Mother's,
Mother's
Day
Day.
to everybody.
Happy Mother's Day, y'all, and thank you so much again. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.